Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang Podcast. I'm your host, John Stancorb. Today I have the privilege of delving into the remarkable career of a true luminary in the world of studio guitar. Carl Verheyen's accomplishments in the music industry are nothing short of extraordinary. From his tenure with Supertramp contributing to timeless classics to his flourishing solo career, Carl's guitar playing has left an indelible mark on the global music scene. Carl and I discuss his journey as a teen guitarist in Pasadena to touring the world. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell for notifications. Now, let's hang with Carl Verheyen.
They called me back about 10 years later and made me a member as opposed to a hired sideman. So
That was good. Cool. That was a good move.
Yeah, it was a good thing all around. So anyway.
It's moves like that that kind of keep, had they not done that and just went with the side guy, you never know how long these things they could have not had all those subsequent tours and that kind of thing.
Right. Well, it was really good for me to play on the albums, because then to go out on tour and play my parts that I'd come up with was much more self-satisfying and than playing parts from tracks they'd already done. Yeah. But those are all good parts though, so I didn't really mind. So.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
As a matter of fact, on my new album, I was looking for a sound that I was going to use for like a little chimey part, right?
Yeah.
And I have hundreds and hundreds of pedals, just literally, yeah. And I just stacked them up over there.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that are not on pedal boards. But then I have this drawer. I've got a drawer with in my, like, this big trunk that goes to my sessions I do, and there's two drawers just with more pedals, and they're really the A pedals, because those are the ones that I'm going to take out and use in a session. Yeah. And I found one of those Boss CE1 chorus pedals.
Oh yeah,
that I had gotten from Supertramp.
Oh,
and I'm sure it's the sound you hear on Goodbye Stranger.
Really?
I'm sure it's that sound, because I just plugged in a Strat and did it, and I went, that's the sound, and so I used it on my record.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to keep those. I think we have all made the mistake of getting rid of something, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we thought, well, when am I ever going to use this? And then, sure enough, you got a project or a gig or something coming up where you need that specific sound. Is
I know. Yeah. So I hardly sell anything, and so I just have a lot of stuff, like 48 amps or something, and but a while back I was offered a whole lot of money for a Jim Kelly head, and I'd had it since the early 80s.
Yeah.
No, I'd had it since the 70s, and but I go, I don't need it. I got two Fender Showmans, and I got high watts, and I got all this stuff, so I don't need it anyway. The day I was going to sell it, I plugged an SG into it, and I went, oh my God, why am I selling this? It sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing, is certain gear gets relegated to the B section or whatever until the right combination of pedals and guitar is like, oh, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. It's exactly that. Yeah. So
anyway. This probably won't make the final edition, but this is something. Might take you by surprise. It's going to go back 30 years, not quite 30 years, a little less than 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that I knew you through a NAMM show. And I was kind of, it was right around the time my daughter was going to be born. So it was maybe 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
I got your phone number and I called, and I think I talked to your wife, Carol.
Yeah. I still got her.
Yeah, you still got her. Awesome. It was so nice. And here I'm this young guy, and I'm just looking for, there's no way you're going to remember this, but I'll just put it out there anyway. We spoke on the phone for about an hour, because I was at a crossroads. I was just doing some gigs, like at my local church and stuff like that. Not sure what to do, getting a lot of resistance from family members about, pursuing this music thing. And
Mhm.
you were incredibly encouraging,
Oh
incredibly
man.
kind, gave me words of wisdom, and it propelled me forward. And I would say it was that little seed that sprouted into all these years later. I lead my own Pink Floyd tribute group, and we play around the country.
Oh great.
15 years. I've got a couple of guitar schools that I own, one here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and one in Cincinnati, Ohio. But that conversation was huge to me because I was
Oh man. Makes me
thinking
feel good.
I may just relegate it to just like a hobby thing, but you really the word, and I couldn't remember verbatim. This is going back as far. This is days before internet, before days of cell phones. It was probably a landline that Carol
Yeah.
answered.
Yeah.
She said, "Hold on, I'll get Carl. He's outside. You were either cooking on the barbecue or doing something. You're out in the yard." But anyway, all that to say, thank you so much for that conversation all those years
Oh
ago.
man. I'm so glad you remember it and it helped.
Yeah, it was amazing because I got my start in music late, and I think that was part of my trepidation was maybe I'm starting too late. I saw
Right.
Scott on tour with Pink Floyd, and David Gilmour's the whole reason I play guitar. I owe
Yeah.
everything to him. And so who would have guessed that all these years later I would be playing with him, and we would go to Budapest and play in front of 45,000 people at a
Oh
festival
great.
playing Pink Floyd tunes.
Yeah,
Uh,
great, man. How
yeah.
fun.
So anyway,
Yeah, Stevie DeStanislow, the drummer that used to be in my band, and I think he's on my third, fourth, fifth, sixth album. Uh, that guy got the David Gilmour gig,
yeah,
and so I got to see David the last time he came through town. But he's also on a Supertramp album called "Brother, Where
where
You Bound."
where you bound? Yeah,
Yeah, and when I joined the band, by the way, this is podcast material. I mean,
oh,
we're
yeah,
we're
yeah,
we're on. Okay, great. When I joined the band, they said, we want you to do. They hired me as lead guitarist.
right.
They had Marty Walsh, my good friend, as rhythm guitar, and I was going to be lead. These old English guys, they just had it separated. Anyway, they said now he's playing like this 5 minute long solo at the end of this tune, and they go, we want you to learn it note for note. And I go, oh God, that's just going to be forever, because
Yeah,
I could do it, I could do it by ear, by memory, or I could write it all out and read it until I knew it. But I just said to them, I go, you know what? Why don't you let me start it like he does and end it like he does and improvise the whole middle part? And
right.
I promised them, I said, sometimes if you guys are listening, it'll really take off if it's feeling good and but I promise it will never suck. I don't know how I had the balls to say that at age 29.
Yeah,
But Rick Davies, who had written the song and who was the leader of the band, he goes, we'll give it a go. So they let me do it, and it was so cool because it was at the time the band had 60 by 40 stage with this big ego ramp that is
yeah,
graded metal,
yeah.
that you could look down. And so I got this great idea because of studio work I had been doing to take another amp, a little combo amp, and put it down there tilted back, because by the time I'm on the ego ramp, I'm like 30 feet from my own speakers, right? So in order to get feedback, they just put that thing down there on, not on 10, but on pretty high.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I could just grab a note, and the feedback that was coming through the pickups would then translate to the speakers that were actually mic'd. And I'd get this huge sustain thing going. And it was really a fun thing to do. And then I got to meet David Gilmour backstage at the Albert Hall, and I told him, I'm not playing your solo note for note. I'm just doing this part and that part. And then I got to meet him again when I was on tour, and Gilmour was out with his band, and they were playing in like Lucca, Italy or something. And I was on tour with my band, and we had a night off, so we went.
Oh,
So,
no.
but yeah, man, he's just fabulous. And I hope he goes out again sometimes. I don't know if he's retired or not.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll take Stevie with him. He's actually in the studio now, just starting to put some stuff together. So
Oh, great.
Stevie is at the core of his must-have, you know.
Great.
And
Yeah, Steve said playing in that band, one must wait for the beat to come around. There's
that's
so
right.
many slow dirges,
Yeah.
that you just have to wait because it's so easy to rush those slow tempos.
Yeah.
So
So if we start, we don't have to start any particular place. This conversation can go anywhere. But were you born in Pasadena and raised in Pasadena? Is that right?
let's see, I was born in Santa Monica,
Santa
which
Monica.
is the other side of the town.
Yeah.
But pretty soon, by the first grade, we had made it over to Pasadena, and I grew up there. And my band played opposite of Van Halen a few times, in the same gig. And I remember Eddie borrowed one of my Les Pauls to
Yeah.
like we had played a set, and then they were going to play a set on a different stage in sort of an L-shaped building. So we were here and they were here,
Right.
and he borrowed it, and we ended our set with "I'm Going Home" by 10 Years After, and they started their set with that just to like one up us.
Oh yeah.
But when he finished with they played 45 minutes, and when they were done, he walked over to our stage, and he goes, "Hey man, great guitar, thanks." And he dropped the Les Paul from about, I don't know, it was like about 3 feet into the case.
Oh,
Not realizing that these guitars,
it did
they're
not have
not bolt on necks and they don't bounce.
no.
So
Yeah,
I
they're
said,
not.
"Ed, what are you doing?" But I think he was used to the Frankenstein Strats that he
Yeah.
couldn't hurt him. So
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
I'd seen pictures of him driving around with like stacks of strats laying in the back of a Jeep, you know,
That's pretty
pulling them out like lumber, just stacked up, no
funny.
cases. Yeah,
That's funny. Yeah, man.
yeah. In that period of time, to be a teenager in the era of post Cream Clapton and Derek
Mhm.
and the Dominoes, Dwayne Allman, all those. Oh my gosh, what a fertile, perfect time for
Yeah, yeah.
some guitar
Hendrix,
player. Hendrix. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. That all those bands you just mentioned, I mean, I just knew that stuff inside and out, and and I could sing and play every Clapton solo, and I could sing along with all the solos of Live at the Fillmore by the Allman Brothers, and
yeah,
so yeah, I was really, 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 that was real formative stuff for me, and it still kind of jumps out of the radio at me if you
right,
hear it. If you like, I was driving around the other day and I heard "I'm So Glad" by Cream, one of those
right, yeah,
live ones, and I went, "Wow, that is still burning." It's
yeah.
still on fire. So
In the
anyway,
days pre-tablature and that kind of, and, even pre-CD when we're learning stuff off cassette and vinyl,
yeah.
it was it was kind of a do or die proposition because that's either you had an older brother or sister that played a little bit or a friend, or you could go to a nearby guitar shop and see somebody doing it. You had to just put in the hours, and
Yeah.
I think that's something that's lost now in the YouTube world and with transcriptions of
Mhm.
varying degrees. Some are very accurate, some are not, and all these, lesson materials.
I know. It's
It,
so true. Yeah. Doing it the hard way probably was a lot more work, but I think it made it sink in a lot better for us.
I think it informed your sense of not only pitch recognition but timbre and
Hmm.
searching out that tone because
Yeah.
it also predated any digital modeling, any really sophisticated stomp boxes. So you were kind of left with, okay, I've got a Les Paul Telly Strat, I've got a nice amp,
Hmm.
maybe a pedal, but I have to
Hmm.
recreate this sound
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that I've heard a million times. It
Yeah.
really refines your sense of, okay, because I know that above anybody that I can think of, you're probably most known for being the tone guy. You and Eric,
Oh, wow.
in terms of
Oh, man.
knowing various, like a connoisseur of fine wine and cigars, speaker cones
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and how
Well,
to.
you start to, I mean, I think I was much older when the gear came around to help you decide of how you're going to get your sound. And then you start listening, as you're listening to records, And if you kind of put a sound together in your mind that you're aiming for,
Right.
and it makes it comfortable to play. A lot of distortion sounds, especially with single coil pickups, mush out below C sharp on the A string, fourth fret A string. They just get mushy down from C sharp down to the low E. So I want that to kind of have a nice beam tone to where I can really hear the note, whether it's single coils or humbuckers. But I want it to be consistently, smooth and warm and fat all the way up. And so you start defining it. Like, I don't want any high-end sizzle, and I don't want that scratchy tone that's edgy. However, the other day I was listening to "Stay With Me" by the Faces with Rod Stewart, and the guitar is real scratchy sounding, but it just works great with Rod Stewart's voice. So, there's a time for all these different tones. And as a studio musician, I just collected stuff for years that was because I might need it, because I needed it. It was an effort to get every sound that was popular, that was important. The more that studio career morphed into a solo artist career, the more I aimed for getting gear that I wanted to sound like. I wanted to sound like me. And so I was buying and trading and moving things around to get my sound.
Right.
And it's not quite, as I listen back to my old records, it's always in the same direction, but it's not quite the same on every record, but it's always in the same direction. Whereas you could take a guy like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eric Johnson or even almost like David Gilmour, to where it's almost the same on every record.
Yeah.
Gilmour's a little bit more varied, but those other guys really have a signature tone, and that's it. Whereas mine moved around a little, but it was always in that same direction.
Yeah, what I admire about your recordings is that you have your moments of being in the same league as a Tommy Emmanuel with acoustics and amazing recordings of acoustic stuff, and then moments of the chicken picking kind of stuff, and then moments of kind of fusion-y intervallic stuff, which that's how I first found out about the No Borders album going way back.
Oh, wow. Yeah, first album.
Yeah, you're traversing a lot of different sonic highways. Not to steal a Foo Fighters phrase, I think that's. But I mean, I think you would have to have your pretty dialed in concept of tone to be able to replicate those different types of things, because you're doing some Travis picking, you're doing some finger picking that may require a little bit of nails, some classical stuff. It's a very ambitious thing that you've done, and so
thank you.
Over all these years. It's amazing to see.
Well, studio musician, that's a career that requires you to be, number one, a big fan of music, right? You gotta love everybody from Van Morrison to Ozzy, right? And you gotta understand what I call the ornamentation of the style, because you mentioned chicken picking, right? So that's, by ornamentation, I mean the phrasing, the choice of notes, right? The scales and choices of notes and stuff, and sonic stuff, the sound. So, I remember getting a call for a movie called, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it was starring that guy, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
And they called me up and said, "Hey, we need you to sound like ZZ Top." Sure. So my brain goes, and this is the ornamentation of the styles clicking in. My brain goes, okay, that's Billy Gibbons. He plays a Les Paul through like a little tweed champ or something. He likes those pinch harmonics. He's not real busy. He's got the Texas shuffle sound, which is different than the Chicago feel, Chicago shuffle. And I'm a big fan of ZZ Top, so it's fun to be what I call the well-listened craftsman that goes into the studio and nails that, right? I love that. It's fun. It's creative in its own sense, not nearly as creative as being, you're a solo artist where, you're writing the songs and you're, everything sonically and everything is my design. But it's also fun. I found those studio years, which was, I'm still doing sessions. I did a Spanish Christmas album last Friday.
Oh,
um, with some, with a producer. So I'm still doing some sessions, but there was a period where I just, man, it was like 10 a week, I was just working constantly, and it would be different stuff every day, and different every afternoon would be different than the morning. And so I really got to where styles and I guess the word is styles, that I got to where it was really fun to explore different styles and try to get them down. I remember playing on this movie called Ratatouille, which was a
yeah.
Pixar film,
Okay.
and also another one called L.A. Story, where they really wanted me to sound like Django Reinhardt. And so I studied it. I borrowed somebody's Macaferry guitar and try to get that phrasing down. And I realized that flamenco guitar, there's a few things that are just so you kind of almost had to grow up in it, especially flamenco,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
where those are a couple of genres where if I get a call to do them, I recommend somebody. But everything else I'm going to take, because I love it, and
Yeah,
dug it.
it's a daunting task to come in and have a TV or a film date where maybe you're cutting live on the floor and your reading chops have to be impeccable.
Yeah,
Or
I got to be a pretty good reader.
yeah, or there's just a set of chords in front of it, and now you have to come up with stylistic things that might be writing parts or coming up.
Yeah.
You got to come up with something, if it's
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's a really creative, fun thing to do too. Playing on record dates where you just have chord charts. Then you come up with the hook maybe, or you come up with a rhythm part that complements the vocal and stays out of the way and all that. And there's the rhythm guitar in my studio years, and even now, rhythm guitar is kind of how you make your living as
yeah,
a professional guitar player, because you'll get a set of chord changes that might be just real simple, like G to B minor to C to F, right?
right.
That's the verse. And you come up with something and they go, don't play that. That sounds like the Police. And you're thinking, the Police are super cool in my house, but
Right, yeah,
try this. Oh, don't play that. That sounds like Steely Dan. Well, Steely Dan's also real cool in my house.
that's
And
right.
then, I've come up with this delay idea or something. Go, oh, don't have to play that. That sounds like you too. Well, I love the Edge. What are you, crazy?
Yeah,
So you have to have like a lot of different things, like R&B chops and, Hendrix style rhythm guitar, and Steve Cropper, and the funk guys, and various funk players from Muscle Shoals or Motown or Atlantic Records, and all those guitar players. So, to be the well-listened craftsman is
yeah,
in many ways, it's a whole job in itself. And some guys, I can name a few here in LA, are content to have that just be their life. They're really, they want to do that forever. It got to a point where with me, where I just, even back with No Borders in 1988, I
yeah,
just kind of said, I got a lot of music in me that I want to get out there and,
right.
you know,
Yeah, it's
start working.
a very satisfying thing to have your own thing and then to be able to do. I mean, the spice of life is variety. To being able to go out on tour and do the big rock shows on the Ego ramp and to do,
Yeah.
but then to do television and film, which to me it seemed I came up kind of into more studio. I knew as many studio players, guitar players, as I did the big name touring rock guys because I was fascinated by all the guys that played on the Steely Dan records,
Yeah. Yeah.
crew stuff, or you know the g- the guy that played the Goodbye to Love solo by the Carpenters. I was all about wanting to
Yeah.
because I thought
Yeah.
to me in my thought process, I thought that was like being special forces, like in the like a Green Beret or Navy
Yeah.
SEAL.
Yeah.
What
That's a good way to put it. Right.
Yeah, because you don't know what you're going into. And
Yeah.
you're surrounded by top call rhythm set. You might be Jeff Porcaro or
Yeah.
JR or whomever it might be, and then you've got all these great bass players and piano players and like Jim Cox or whomever. These
Yeah. Yeah.
mega to me, those guys are the Mount Rushmore. Also, the studio guy. I just
Yeah. And
so
what's so cool is that all those guys are really still working. Jim Cox and I had a conversation yesterday because we're trying to put together this concert we do every year in Bakersfield, where I augment my own band with some more guys, and it's a big charity event at the Buck Owens Crystal Palace, which is really cool. It's a 600-seat shrine to Buck. It's really fun. Pictures of Buck with every president, every Beatle, every country artist, Jonathan Winters, Sophia Loren. It's really a fun place to play. And we were trying to organize our schedules, and he just got back from working with Mark Knopfler in London. Now he's got a live Lyle Lovett record acoustic thing to do. And so we're juggling. And then he writes back, man, for a couple of old farts, we're sure working a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you have legacy artists that are having you on the road, or Jim on the road, or Lee Sklar is probably out with the Lyle Lovett group. So
yeah, Lee's been doing that. Yeah, I saw Lee at the airport the other day. I was coming back. I've been doing Stuart Copeland, the drummer from the Police. He's got a thing called Police Deranged for Orchestra, which means he's taken the Police tunes, rearranged them, and we go out and play with symphony orchestras with him on drums, and Armand Sabuleka on bass, this guy that played with Peter Gabriel and Paul Simon and everything, and then 3 female vocalists, and then we're doing all this great Police music.
Oh, man.
So we were crossing at the airport the other day and had a good time.
Yeah, I just saw Andy Summers do his one-man show, Cracked Lens and a Broken Guitar String. It's where he's going out and doing solo arrangements of Police tunes, and he's got a slideshow of all these photos of his touring days with the Police, and he tells some stories and talks about some of the excerpts from his book that he's released. But yeah, I'm a huge Police fan as well. Me
too. Yeah, it's so great. Such good stuff. So it's fun because Stuart's a really good guy and a good hang. And he's got, I ask him all kinds of questions, like, how did you write Murder by Numbers? And he goes, we were down in Montserrat, and Andy had this jazz guitar, and at breakfast he was playing those chords, and Sting goes, I'll be right back. I've got some lyrics that might work with that. And so Sting takes off, and Stuart gets up from the table, goes in and comes up with the drum pattern that is, I guess it's a 12/8 groove, but it's just a strange little drum pattern. And he goes, that was the first take. Yeah. So really interesting stories. So yeah. It's fun. I think that's the thing, the great currency of these things is, whether it's if you're hanging with Jim or Stuart or anybody else, running into Lee, is just all these really cool stories. Like, because at our core, we're still that 14-year-old kid that's just a super fan, and we want to know, what kind of dual showman did Clapton use on this, or what Summers use it. It's just endlessly fascinating. So to be able to do a Guitar Hang podcast where we can talk this kind of stuff is really it's fun for me too. I enjoy it. Yeah, I got a lot of great Lee Sklar stories because we've worked together in the studio a lot and live too. But yeah, Lee's a great piece of work, man. So the thing I was kind of curious about is, how early was it into your playing that you started writing down you gave me the idea when I watched your video a couple decades ago about keeping notebooks full of lines, intervallic lines of all kinds. And I wrote something down today, as a matter of fact, so it's right here. Here's a book. I probably have about 25 volumes of this stuff, but yeah, it's the same. I saw this Andy Timmons thing on That Pedal show, and he played this really gorgeous thing, and I just have to know it. Oh, great. And some of that stuff filters into your playing, and some of it but there was a while there that I would start to sound so much like my favorite player. Yeah, right. I mean, it's really important to take that stuff, maybe even transcribe it, but then try to find your way in and out of it. Maybe just a simple Mike Bloomfield lick or Clapton lick or something, and then try to find how you're going to access it and how you're going to get out of it, and maybe change it, because one little lick can sometimes be major, minor, and dominant by changing a note or two, one little idea. So But yeah, I still try to write my original ideas down.
Right.
And sometimes I'll play along and go, yeah, that sounds like Steve Lukather, and that sounds like Andy Timmons, and that sounds like somebody, Albert King.
Albert.
And then bam, that sounds like me. What is that? I'm going to write that down and then find it in all 12 keys, and then find maybe another version of it, major, minor, dominant, and put little stars next to it saying I got to really work on that. I'm looking at a funny page here, and I transcribed "Sweet Child of Mine" and then a line in F minor, and then a part of a tune of mine transposed to a different key.
Yeah.
And then here's "Scatterbrain" by Jeff Beck. I wrote that down, and then a line in G7, C minor, F7, C sharp minor. Just random stuff, that I write down. But I'm always putting the position above, and below I'm putting what finger I use. So it's a lot more accurate than tab, because it tells you what finger to actually use, not just what fret and stuff.
Well, the one thing that you're not dealing with tab, and the most important thing is the rhythmic component of it. If you're just writing it in tab without any kind of rhythmic notation, that's not incredibly helpful.
And when you get out in the real world, tab does not translate to any other instrument but guitar. So you can't write a tab chart for cello or even bass. It's not going to happen. Maybe bass, but you'd have to change it. But anyway, yeah, it's really, I find working with music on the written page is very productive in that sense. All my charts for my band have been written out in pencil and given to them for the sessions. And then once the session is over and we've kind of solidified the arrangement, I have a guy who's like an intern buddy of mine, and I have him do it in Sibelius. So I have a beautiful computerized chart that I can send to people.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And then sometimes I have the album version, then I say, but the live version, we end differently. So we're not fading, or we start it differently. So make the live version. And then recently, I just had him go through all the tunes that we're doing currently live. And I had him transcribe all the background vocals. So I've got a female background vocalist in the band, and the drummer and the keyboard player sing. And so I've got all their parts written out. Okay. And she's got a notebook in front of her because she can sight sing. She can read if she forgets it. And we recently did a show in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah. Sweet.
I was coming back from London, and the band was flying out for her from here, but I couldn't afford her. But I know a singer there that used to sing at sessions at Sweetwater. Oh, cool. Sent her the charts, and I said, "Hey, you even sang on this album, And I sent her the charts and the tracks, and she nailed it. So it was cool to do it that way. See, that's the value of having it written down in notes, because tab she couldn't have dealt with.
Right. And it just it elevates when you're a Navy SEAL guitar player or special forces guy. Tab is just somehow kind of
yeah, exactly.
It's not legit, but it's
yeah. And I learned to read music because I, in my 20s, I was starting to get some session work, mid-20s, and I went down to the Musicians Union down in Hollywood, where you had to go to pick up your checks before they started mailing them out. And I ran into a guy named Gordon Goodwin, who's a friend of mine. I'd even played with him at Disneyland for one summer. And he was becoming a pretty popular arranger, composer. And he takes me aside in the parking lot, and he said, "Hey, Carl, I want you to hear this from me. I got this big session coming up Wednesday. It's a double. But I had to call a different guy, and I had to call so-and-so, because although I like your sound better, your phrasing better, your solos better, your rhythm feel better, your ideas better, this guy's a faster reader than you." And I go, okay, I understand. But I was really crushed, because back in your 20s, when you have to turn down a $1,200 or $1,300 day, in the studio, that That's bad. So at the time I was teaching this other guy, I was trading him classical guitar lessons for, rock and blues and stuff. Like I'd teach him electric, he'd teach me classical. So I go over there for my lesson or his lesson, and I said, man, I just lost this huge session this week because I'm not a very good reader. I wish there was a course we could take, because he wanted to be a good reader too. And I said, I just wish there was a class we could take somewhere and be a better reader. And he was the hippest thing. He said, why don't we make our own class? He goes, why don't we just go down to this little music store called Baxter Northrop, and each of us buy a stack of music about this tall, $75 worth. We'll get flute books, clarinet books, trumpet books, bebop duets, classical duets. We'll get, saxophone books, anything in the treble clef that wasn't exercises.
Right.
And you buy different stuff than me. So we did that. I'll buy this, you buy that, the close clarinet method. Okay, I'll buy volumes 1, you buy 2, then the other 2 requirements were a coffee pot and a metronome. And it would be my house, his house, my house, his house, 5 days a week. And it was really great because within 2 weeks, we could actually read. And I took a couple of lessons too, but from this guy named Tony Rizzi, who was a studio guitarist from, the 50s. He played on the Munsters, and he was a real old school guy. So anyway, he was an awesome sight reader. And he had a band called Tony Rizzi's 5 Guitars that I joined. And I was fledgling reader, and it was really hard to read that stuff because it was the music of Charlie Christian written out for 5 guitars. He would play the melody. This guy played the melody an octave higher. Then they were thirds apart. But book 4 was like, you just had to believe it. There were accidentals in places that shouldn't be, like a C sharp in the key of B flat, weird stuff. But anyway, long story short, I got a lesson from him, and he gave me 2 really good pointers. One was to always read in the position where the scale lines up under 4 frets. In other words, the scale lines up without any stretches or position changes. So if you're reading in the key of G, it's perfect. You're in the 2nd position. You start with the root. Or the 7th position, if you start on a B, it all lines up there. The 5th position, you got to double back or stretch,
right.
And the other positions, I guess the 9th position and the 10th position require different moves. So he goes, if you read there, then everything in the key is going to line up under your fingers, right?
Yeah.
And the accidentals are going to be the stretches and the things that aren't in the scale. So that really helped. And the other thing he said that was a real fantastic pointer for reading, because I was really struggling with syncopation, the when you have an eighth note and 2/16 tied over to a dotted eighth and a 16th, stuff like that. He said, when you get down to there's only so many figures.
Right.
And I go, wow, I never thought of it that way. He goes, a quarter note can be that, or it could be dot dot, in other words, one beat.
Right.
Dot, 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 a triplet, dot, 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 4/16, dot, 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 2/16 and an eighth, dot, 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 eighth, 2/16, or dit, dot, dit, meaning 16th, 8th, 16th. That's it. That's all a note can be, So, and it gets harder when they start tying them over to the next beat. But like he said, there's only so many figures that are popularly used all the time.
Right.
Popularly, not sure that's the word.
Popular, yeah.
Anyway, enough theory lesson and all that.
It's really there's a lot of folks that will watch this that may kind of jar them a little and realize that you'll never spend a second regretting that you have great reading chops, because it's just an amazing tool in your reading arsenal. Having said that, I need to put my hand up and start a group for, a small group for reading, because I just don't read, and I write things out for students, but I'm not reading new stuff all the time.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, is just to get a group to read every now and again, And I think it can be really inspiring. Like I pull out the sonatas and partitas for solo violin by Bach,
Yeah.
and just tap into the mind of him. He was just scribbling that stuff out fast, but and you can see sometimes there's three parts in a single line. Because he'll go da 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 ba ba da 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 ba ba da da da. So in other words, the first thing da 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 is the melody, and then ba da is the bass line. Da 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 is kind of the harmony in the middle,
Right.
and it's just incredible, the mind, how that works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, that would be a good idea to do like a meetup with some of my students and do like a little small group thing, and probably be some coffee involved to kind of keep your stamina going.
God, no kidding, and a metronome.
Yeah.
So
yeah. When you're doing stuff for your for upcoming, I mean, I'm sure you're probably in the process of collecting ideas and putting together tunes and that sort of thing. But do you do a little demo there in your home studio and then maybe make a chart for the musician? What would a typical A to B thing be from the time that you came up with the germ of an idea for the song to its completion? What might that look like?
Well, generally ideas start off with a guitar thing, something that's interesting to me and different, and the home studio, I've really only had one for about the last eight or 10 years, Well, I guess I got to be a Pro Tools guy around, about 10 years ago, and demos, it was always, all these years, it's always been more fun to just call a rehearsal and say, I got this little chart, let's try this. But I mean, I'm pretty well fleshed out by then. But my musical ideas, a lot of times just playing free, with no particular place to go. Like if you play a line in F sharp minor and you go from the 2nd fret all the way up to the 14th fret, and on that F sharp, you say, now I'm going to be in the key of D, and this is the 3rd, and I'm just going to come down in D, and then I'm going to go up in B flat, and then B flat major, and then come down in G7. Just following my ear around and playing. Coltrane used to practice for the sheer joy of hearing the notes in the air.
Right.
In other words, just he loved to hear the sounds of, and let his mind play freely. That's I almost call it a cosmic way of practicing, but in a way, ideas spring forth and you might find a little melody or a riff or something. That might start something. My brand new album called Riverboat Sky, it just came out. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you. I've got, it's of course on all those streaming things, but it also came out on vinyl too.
Oh, beautiful. I just, a few minutes before we started, I sat down to write out the intro line for Jamaica Say You Will. It's an A.
Oh, cool. Cool.
But I didn't have enough time to. I just love that. To me, when I heard that, I was like, if I just heard it in the car, I would say that's Carl.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I had this crazy uncle that must have read like the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, when I was a kid, like in high school even. And he one time, hey, there's a great audition for you down at such and such a studio. And I got my guitar, go down there, and it turned out to be Mitzi Gaynor, right? Who's an actress dancer. And she goes, what are you doing here? And I'm here to audition for the guitar. And she goes, we're not looking for guitar players. We're looking for dancers. And I go, oh, geez. So I split. 2 weeks later, he goes, Jackson Browne is looking for a guitar player. And the audition is Tuesday night upstairs at this club in Pasadena called the Ice House. Yeah. So I get there early. I hump my Fender Twin, and I think I had a Les Paul. And I'm here to audition for Jackson Browne, waiting. And then pretty soon Jackson shows up with all these guys. And he goes, what are you doing here? I'm here to audition for the guitar, And he goes, He goes, we're not looking for a guitar player. We're looking for a piano player. Anyway, so this uncle, I stopped taking his calls, but I was remembering that. And I was remembering what a great song Jamaica was.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah. I was just I love Apple Music to be able to go through and check.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it's there's just not enough time. But I was I love the cover of that. I thought that was really cool, and I started
Cool.
checking out. And I also got to the beauty of YouTube. I get to see a really smoking live version of Spike the Punch. You guys
Cool. Yeah, we did. I think the live version that's just come out is over at the Triple Door up in Seattle. It's a nice big place we play.
That was the one I watched. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, see, we had to edit that down because those trades, me, drums, keyboards, bass, they go on much longer. We do 4 or 5 rounds before we take it home. But I thought, for a YouTube video, let's just cut back into the tune. Make it 4 minutes instead of 8. So
was Dave Murata on that?
Yeah. He's been playing with me forever.
Right.
He's on the first 3, 4 albums, and then for some reason he needed, maybe it was medical, I can't even remember. He needed to do something else, so my buddy Cliff Hugo got on it in the band for a while, and then I got Cliff into Supertramp, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Towards the last 3 or 4 albums around '96. So anyway, but yeah. But Dave's been with me forever, and boy, he's got an incredible memory. And we probably know 100 songs together that we can pull out, which is really fun.
Right. Now he's not related to Rick Murata, right?
No, the Dave's from the family that grew up in Monterey, California, and they were like sardine fishermen and stuff.
Okay.
Rick is New York.
New York. That's what I thought. I thought there was a, but I thought.
Yeah. But Rick, I worked with him a bunch of times in the studio. He lived in LA, probably still does, and
yeah,
he was a fun guy to play with. I think that's him on Peg, right, by Steely Dan.
Yeah. My first foray into the tribute, I've been doing the tribute band thing really since 2005, which it's a weird thing on the surface, but on the other hand, some of these legacy acts, people still want to hear the stuff played live.
Yeah.
Play it well, there's an audience for it. But
right.
We did a show, and it was a thing called Steely Dan Fest that I helped organize, and Bernard Purdy came out and sat in on a couple tunes, and he's so larger than life, just
I know,
quite a character.
Yeah.
I must say, as incredible as our drummer was, when we played Home at Last and Kid Charlemagne. And
really? He played on that? Well, he didn't play on the original, did he?
No. I don't know if he played on. I know it was Chuck Rainey.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been Chuck Rainey, Victor Feldman, and Bernard on that. Anyway, but some of those tunes were just that feeling of that. As soon as he played the fill leading into Home at Last, it was like a little intro. I was like, oh man.
Man, it's so great. Yeah, what a feel that guy had.
Yeah.
I played in Victor Feldman's band for many years. It was really fun.
Yeah.
He was, and when you'd go over to his house to rehearse, he had gold records on the wall, and I owned every one of them. So the Steely Dan stuff, Al Jarreau, all that stuff in that period where he was either playing percussion or keyboards or vibes. He was really an amazing cat.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's again, I have such an admiration for. If I had it my way, I'd probably just have the Guitar Hang podcast be just all studio greats. I mean, you've always been on the top of my list of folks that I have wanted to. If I was like going to do something like this, I was like you were on there, and
buddy, that's so cool.
And my big 3 was you, Tim Pierce, and Dean Parks. I was like, 3 guys.
Dean is one of my heroes too. I mean, I love Tim. Don't get me wrong, but Dean was a guy that, because there were guys that were really great readers that seemed to only do the TV and movie stuff, but they were never the creative guys that got the record dates too. Right. And that was what I always aspired to, is playing on records as well as the intense reading gigs, and Jingles is part of that too.
Oh yeah.
Jingles, Larry Carlton told me, man, when he kind of stepped away from studio work, he stepped away from everything but a few jingle accounts because the royalties and residuals were so great. He didn't want to give leave that money on the table. Yeah. But Dean was a guy that kind of did it all. He was a great reader. And I remember playing on this TV show, I think it was called Suddenly Susan, and I had done some demos with the composer at his home studio, and I'd played the melody, and he asked me to harmonize it, so I wrote out a harmony, and then he goes, "Now we're really going to do it. Who do you want to have as your second guitar player? Because we're going to go into a studio and record it for real." Yeah. I said, "Let's get Dean." And I said, "Dean, I'll play the melody because I kind of know it." And he goes, "Okay, I'll read the harmony chart." Nailed it. I mean, and the harmony chart was much harder, much more difficult. You had to believe it a little bit, And but he nailed it. I think we got it in like one take, and it wasn't hard. It wasn't easy. It was fast and all over the place. So anyway, I love that guy.
He's a real badass reader. He's a North Texas guy,
right? Saxophone, but now he's getting really good at pedal steel.
Oh, really good, really good.
Yeah, he's shedding pedal steel all the time and taking gigs on it, just to little club gigs just to do it.
That's amazing. I'm always excited about the opportunity, and I thank you again for this your time today. If do you think it would be wise to send him an email like I sent you?
Yeah, I can give you his number.
Oh, that would mean the world. Like
sure,
I said, you and Dean and
Yeah, I love it. So anyway,
again, going back to all those years ago, I put you on the spot, but that conversation lasted for maybe about an hour. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but you really gave me the inspiration to go forward. And it was really a pivotal time because I was like, I got a young daughter, and maybe I have this music thing. I don't know, but here I am.
Well, it sounds like it really worked out for you. You've got students too, and
yeah, I teach full time. I'm about to launch. I teach about 20 students a week, but when I had my school in Dallas, I was up to about 70 students a week, and I had been teaching for the last 30 years, and I thought 25, 30 years. I thought I would like to stop trading my time. So I'm launching my first online guitar course. The first one is just an intermediate course that's aimed for guys that are our age that never really got to play after high school or college. They've got maybe a really nice Paul Reed Smith guitar and a combo amp and pedals, but there's a huge chasm of things that they don't know to connect the dots to get them from sounding like they are now to their favorite player, whether that be Air or Clapton or whomever. So it's my first course. I've started working on it since August, but I'm going to be rolling it out in November and doing this as well to kind of help.
Yeah, great. Well, good luck with that. I mean, I'm hoping.
Thank you so much, Carl. I mean, that was a huge thing. The only way that I knew that it would you would probably say that was a legit thing is the fact that I remember your wife's name was Carol.
Yeah, totally. And and like I said, I'm still on my first wife. I still got her.
I do recall a couple of years ago when I was talking to Scott Page, he said, "Yeah, you should reach out to Carl." He said, "If you're going to do this podcast thing," and I think he referred to as Buster.
Yeah. He called me Buster in the Supertramp tour for some reason, just out of the blue,
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I called him the Hedge because he had kind of long blonde hair, but a flat top. You could land an airplane on it,
Oh yeah, it was quite a coif.
Yeah. He was an interesting character in that he was always writing down these ideas, and he kept notebooks, and he was always thinking and working on stuff, and I really admired that.
Really, I first got to know him in 2018, and I thought somebody was playing a prank on me because he called. I don't know how he got my number, but he found out that I was one of the few guys that do the Pink Floyd tribute thing that sing both the Roger and the David parts and the lead guitar thing. And
Uh-huh.
he said he needed somebody to play at the Peppermint Club in West Hollywood, I think it's called. Anyway, I didn't think it was ever going to happen. Months go by. He calls me the week before. Can you be in L.A.? And
Mhm.
it ended up being Scott Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, and Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, and a guy named Robbie Wyckoff,
Yeah.
vocalist. Yeah,
Yeah, he's great.
yeah, great
I
band.
bet that was fun. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
so fun. And then we started every month. We were doing this thing in the Wisdome downtown LA. These big domes where you'd go in and they would have like a 360-degree video stuff on the screen or on the ceilings, and people would lay back watching this stuff unfold. Like, I guess it's like LSD minus the LSD.
Right. Yeah.
Us playing Pink Floyd songs. So it was
Cool, man. That must be, yeah, he told me about that. I'm sorry I didn't know about it at the time. I would have come down.
yeah.
But I got a call to do a Supertramp tribute band in Paris, and it involved a business class seat and a huge amount of money to play 3 songs.
Really?
And I know that Supertramp management is dark on that. So I made the wise decision to call them. And I said, hey, can I do this? It's a big chunk of change, and it's just 3 songs. And they go, absolutely not.
Really? Okay.
What a drag, huh?
Yeah.
But John Helliwell, the sax player, is doing. I think there's a band called the Logical Tramps or something. A friend of mine, Laurent Hunsanger, who's a French saxophone player. He's got John Helliwell coming into Paris to do a show, and so. I guess they're, John's an original member. So right. if he can do it, next time they call me and offer me the big money, I'm going to just say I'm doing it.
Yeah. What the heck? 3 songs and as soon as you say business class seat, it's like, it's
starting to look good.
Yeah, that's pretty tasty.
Yeah. So anyway, funny thing you should mention Carol. She was complaining one day about 3 or 4 months ago. She goes, how come we never take any vacations unless it's where you're playing? Or it's like you've just finished a tour and now we're in Salzburg, Austria, or we're in Hawaii, or we're in, and that's when we have a little vacation. And I said, okay, I'll take you to France, and we'll go to Paris. And then we'll go up to Normandy, and I want to see Mont Saint-Michel because I've been there before, and it's the 1000th anniversary of Mont Saint-Michel. And we'll just have a nice little 2 weeks in Paris. So before we even left, I bought the tickets, and I got this call from these French guys saying, hey, if you're ever in France, would you mind doing a master class at our studio? And Robin Ford had just done one, and they asked me to do one. So I said, okay.
All right. Yeah.
So I said, how I was going to take you on a trip that I wasn't playing. Well, I'm playing, but it was just the last day of the trip, and it was fine. So
yeah, I'm sure she understood. And once that's over, you guys probably had a lovely.
Yeah, we had a lovely meal, and we she was at Musée d'Orsay all afternoon while I was doing it, so it worked out just fine. So
I met my wife 2 years ago. I'm from Cincinnati originally, and she's from Los Angeles. She grew up, went to Reseda High, and lived in Long Beach for a long time. And we both live in Raleigh, North Carolina now. So
that's a great town.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, I played there. I played at a really fun club there. The last time I was on tour on the East Coast, which is probably like 2017. Yeah. But I can't remember the name of the club. But it was really a cool place. I like the town a lot, though.
Yeah. We play at a venue called the Carolina Theater, and I just saw Steve Hackett there. Genesis.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
he's out these days. That's right.
Yeah, it's great to hear that old stuff. He did all of Foxtrot because it's the 50th anniversary of the album.
Sometime I'd like to, if I'm on tour on the East Coast, which I'm trying to arrange for next year, I would love to do a stop there and maybe do a double bill with you.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
With your guys, we do generally in the set we throw in one Supertramp tune.
That
you
would be
know.
fantastic.
So, yeah, it would be a really fun thing to do.
Yeah.
We gang.
Yeah, do you know when we're due to play there September of 24. September
Oh
7th.
wow,
Yeah.
that
So
might just be about the time we're back there. Yeah,
yeah, oh man, that would be
love it. Yeah,
yeah.
we got to keep in touch about that because, as a matter of fact, if we can make that happen, I can get my agent to, fill in around it.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
actually, we could conceivably do two, because I rehearse in Cincinnati. We live in Raleigh, but I'm from Cincinnati and I have a guitar school there. We rehearse there and then we go out and do our shows. There's some really nice venues there. We might be able to do two shows that way or
oh
something.
wow, how far away is Cincinnati from Raleigh?
8 hours.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
Yeah.
if you had it routed where it would
Yeah.
maybe not back-to-back nights or something, but
Yeah,
maybe
yeah. Night off in between.
or something.
Yeah, a couple 4-hour drives. That'd be great. Yeah.
With that in mind, do you have if you were to do a guitar clinic, do you have a fee that you charge to do a clinic?
Well, I asked these guys for 2,500 euros,
Yeah.
and they said no problem. I don't know what they charge their people, but I mean, if I'm out there on the road and basically the expenses are covered, I generally charge 1,000.
Okay.
Seems to be a mellow amount.
Yeah.
That people pay. And then the other thing is sometimes I can get my string company or LSL guitars something to kind of kick in and
Yeah.
make it more of an event that they broadcast too. So yeah, that'd be kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. We're not Cincinnati's not terribly far from Sweetwater. I've gone out to the Gear Fest a couple times and it's only a couple hours.
Yeah. I did a Gear Fest. I did Gear Fest a number of years, and one Gear Fest was they had a big guitar festival thing outside there.
Yeah.
And that was I got to play with Greg Koch, Eric Johnson, Dweezil Zappa, and Andy Timmons.
Oh man, what a treat.
It was all and the other and the people that didn't get up to play were Steve Stevens, Jennifer Batten, and Robin Ford.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to.
Pretty well known players, huh?
Yeah. Too bad about them, So, but it was really fun. Yeah. And yeah, we had a good time.
And if for no other reason than to laugh at Gregory Cockery.
Oh man,
that guy.
So funny.
Oh, he was
one of the funniest humans alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah. He just landed me a really good gig. My band was on tour up in the Seattle area, actually Washington. We were going up the coast. And we were going to play on Orcas Island, a big outdoor festival. But they could only put us up on the island one night. So the night before, we stayed in Mount Vernon. And in the hotel was a picture of Greg Koch coming to the Mount Vernon Theater. So I took a picture of it, and it told the name of the promoter. And so I called Greg and I go, hey, would that guy be into promoting me? He called the guy, and the guy called me immediately, said, hell yeah. So I'm going to do the Mount Vernon Lincoln Theater next June. So
that's awesome. Yeah. But yes, let's definitely stay in touch. And I keep telling Scott that we're going to get him out to play with the group sometime. So maybe that would be a time to bring Scott out. And
no, that would be fun. Yeah. We did a benefit concert when the Ukraine thing started happening. We did a benefit concert there. For something, and we kind of reconnected after a long time, and that's when he got in my face about.
Oh yeah, I mean, God love him, but he does. I can't get started on politics because he's.
Oh, buddy, I'm glad you said that.
I love him. I love the guy dearly, but that's one topic that I just.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Me too. But you know what? We had been talking about 5 minutes, and he goes, now you do know the election was stolen, don't you?
Yeah.
So you know what I said? I guess I was thinking on my feet. I go, yeah, it was stolen. It wasn't that brilliant how they stole that. I mean, Biden and those guys, they got all those judges to throw out all that stuff, and they took all that fraudulent and they just threw it out. That was brilliant. How they pulled that election, man, and they got rid of Trump. That was brilliant, and he didn't know what to say because he's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
And he did He did get into it with me though. He goes, "Oh, all this stuff's going to come out. There's a documentary. You'll see. You'll see. There's all kinds of filming of stuff being thrown out, and ballots being dumped in the river. And of course, none of that materialized."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do not talk politics with Scott Page.
That's right.
So we'll cut this part out.
Be in the editing room floor. So
Yeah. So anyway, so
awesome. Thank you so much. Tell Carol hello for me. And
I will. Yeah, she'll be happy to hear that. Yeah.
it was a wonderful memory from all those years ago. So
Yeah, and yeah, I will start working on, so you're saying the end of September.
yeah,
Because see, I normally tour Europe in September, October, but this next year we're doing April, May.
okay.
So I get home, and then June I'm going up the West Coast and even playing Vegas and a bunch of stuff. And so the East Coast in September would be fantastic for me. And I've already got offers in Boston and New York, so come a little south, and here we are.
Yeah, there's some really nice places down this way. There's the Carolina Theater, which we're playing. If you go a little bit further south in Asheville, there's the Orange Peel. That's a really nice venue.
Oh, I'd love to go to Asheville. And then we played the City Winery in
City Winery.
In Atlanta, which was great. So yeah, I got to get it. I've got one kind of weird thing going on with band. I got a killer band. I just love them. We all get along. We rehearse a lot because we dig rehearsing, and so it's like a perfect time in my life of a fantastic band, and everybody's into it. Yeah. But my agent lives in Munich. Oh. And although he can book the USA, I don't think he's got his thumb on the pulse of what's really, like the venues you mentioned. I don't think he knows those. He's got sort of weird circuits that he's booked rock bands into and stuff. So do you guys use an agent, or do you do it yourself?
We do use an agent. There's a couple that we use, and then I do a lot of the stuff myself. Because there's with agents, it gets kind of weird. It's like, you might do a string of shows, and then a year and a half later, the venue will contact them, and that agent wants a cut again, even if they contact us directly.
I know.
And I get that kind of stuff, but it's like, there's sometimes that it gets a little sticky with, and they want you to do these packages. We'll give you this show and this show, which are two good shows, but you have to do this one.
Yeah.
You can't bring your front of house engineer, and the PA is located. It's in a casino, and the PA is located in a crow's nest, and you have to use their stuff. And it's like, sound guy or front of house guy is as important as a band member, because he got a lot of this delayed effects and a lot of the spoken word stuff, and we're doing some stuff in quad. We really need to be able to have a guy that knows what he's doing. Not anybody can mix our show.
And do you also have stuff on computer or on tape that because I know Pink Floyd did,
I won't, I'll send you a photo of my rig. It's completely controlled by the click track. So I've got a Ron Manelli at RJM. I've got a switching system, and all my pedals are on top of this big, huge thing that has 4 of my amp heads, 2 high watts, a Mesa Boogie, and a Soar. And the Mesa Boogie handles all the MIDI stuff, but everything is going through the click track. So as I'm singing, I don't have to change my pedal board. It just changes because we're on the grid.
Is it MIDI controlled?
Yeah, it's all MIDI. Yeah. And I've got the WEM 412 cabinets.
Just like David. Yeah, cool.
The rig looks like now I can't move it by myself, which is unfortunate.
Right. Yeah. I can't move mine. I'm a 4 amp guy.
Yeah.
So I recently got a Dumble head, and you hear it a lot on Riverboat Sky Record. Yeah. That's the Dumble, and a high watt and a Showman and a Marshall. Yeah. So, but it's funny because, and 2 4x12s, but it's funny because when I play smaller places, I can scale it down, but I still want to use the 4 amp rig because they really get an amazing sound. two for clean stereo and two for wet, dry distortion, that kind of a thing.
There is something about and I have the cabinet sitting on the floor. Some guys like to have casters.
Mm-hmm.
I like it to sit on both the 412s on the floor so I can feel.
Yeah, the oomph. Yeah.
There is we're all got the in-ears, but I keep
Right.
one halfway out anyway.
Yeah, I love the halfway out to hear the sound on stage. Yeah.
Yeah, but the feeling of the air, when you've got 412s moving.
I know it. Yeah, you're right. Well, there are certain stages where I prefer to have them in their road cases, just because they're just too bottomy, too boomy.
Right.
And those stages are generally the hollowish ones. There's nothing under them, they scare me a bit. So I've been kind of keeping mine in the trays, but every once in a while I just take it out and hear the sound, something different. So
yeah. When we do these shows, we'll probably have to, we have a big 16-foot circular screen. So I set off to the left a little bit so we can have the screen in the center. When we do some shows together, I'll have to have you on the other side because both of our rigs will take up,
Yeah.
Pretty good size.
Well, so are you stage right or stage left? You're stage left, it sounds like.
I'm stage right.
You're stage right?
Yeah.
In other words, if the drummer's behind you, you're to his right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's where I am. No, I can be anywhere probably. Or there's lately I've been where I love to stand on stage, and I actually had a great conversation with Eric Johnson about this. I like my rig over here, you know what I mean? Because I really want to hear what it's doing in the room, as opposed to being right in front of it and hearing it come right off the speakers. But I love to stand right in front of the ride cymbal, so the drummers kind of hear. That to me is a really great place because I can hear bass and keyboards and everything.
Yeah.
And but we don't the drummer and the female background vocalist, they use in-ears.
Yeah.
And I use monitors. Just been doing in-ears with Supertramp for many tours, and I loved it. But that's because you could update your in-ear mix for every song every night, because there's certain songs where I need to hear more of the Leslie, which is under the stage, and certain songs I need to hear you singing with me, and every song I like to hear a little more hi-hat than I could hear acoustically. So during rehearsals, you say, okay, and give me more of this, more of that, less of that, and then he just push save, and when that song scene comes up, do you guys do it that way?
Yeah, we have, everybody's got iPads. So we've got a Behringer X32 that controls everybody's in-ear. So I usually have mine on top of, I've got one of these old Yamaha RA200s that has the rotating speaker thing. So I have that, and then a road case that has some drawers in it. I just have my iPad up there so I can go up to it, and I've got everybody's mix.
Yeah.
So I can control.
That's cool.
But I mean, it does not feel very rock and roll in a way, because we got click in it, but we've also got verbal cues. Verse.
Oh, I see.
3, 2, 1. It's So but everything's being tied to the video and the
lights. Yeah.
Stuff. So
well, I've only seen 2 real Pink Floyd shows, and post Roger Waters, and then I've seen Gilmore maybe 3 times, and I don't know. Is his band playing to a click? I can't remember. I don't think so. They're old school.
They're old school. And what's interesting is when David does, he does have some video, but he has this big round like truck mirror that he has on his pedal board that he's able to see behind him. So he takes his cue off the video for certain things.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. But I think that the thing he loves about Stevie D is that he's such a great drummer and has got such a great feel and very consistent and just
And his sound is great. I love him. Yeah. By the way, I played on a Stevie D album.
Wow.
He made a jazz album about I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's called Solar Flare.
Solar Flare.
I think you would dig it. Yeah, it's real. It's not straight ahead. Instead, it's kind of avant-garde. We do a Keith Jarrett tune, but then it kind of falls apart into something that it comes back into time, and it's really, really a creative record.
Is it got James Raymond on it?
No, it's got another keyboard player that's an old friend of him, but it's got a killer saxophone player on it, and then a great bass player. I mean, it's just a wonderful record.
I have to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, Solar Flare. Yeah, I played a Strat, a 65 Strat through a Gibson Falcon amp, and the whole record was done in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, in one. We did it at Simon Phillips' studio.
Oh,
and
nice.
just knocked it out in an afternoon, and a morning and in the afternoon, 8 or 9 tunes, and it's just beautiful improvisation kind of a record. So,
are you in Carroll and Tarzana?
We're in Topanga.
Topanga, okay.
Yeah, Topanga Canyon.
I saw a clip of you at Norm's. I figured, well, maybe
not far. Yeah, not far from Norm. I got an Instagram girl that is in charge of making sure I post stuff all the time, and she goes, "You got to go back to Norm's. You got to go back to Norm's." The problem is I'm passing Norm's and I'm wearing shorts and flip flops. I'm thinking I want to go in, but he's going to hand me a guitar.
Right.
Pull out the cameras, sit me on the couch, and it's showtime. So sometimes I have to, get dressed like something other than a 5-year-old, and then bring my own guitar in and say, "Okay, Norm, what do you got for me?" So
that's cool.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I think Tim Pierce is in Tarzana. I think, I don't know.
Yeah, he's right up the hill from Norm. I've been to his house a few times, and
yeah, whenever I would go out to LA all the time, I would stay in Studio City and just fell in love with that area. So
I used to live in Studio City for 10 years, and then we finally moved out here. Yeah. It's a good place. Yeah, the whole scene. So anyway, well, man, John, it's great to meet you, and
great pleasure to meet you as well.
Yeah, I think you got some meat and potatoes you can probably edit together, and
we got a lot of great stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean,
because the rest of the time we've been just hanging.
That's right. Hang podcast. This can go any direction,
Yeah, well, I look forward to doing that in person one of these days. Are you coming out for NAMM, do you think?
We're coming out for a wedding in April. My stepdaughter's getting married in April. But I don't know when NAMM is, but we have a show at the Madison Theater January 20th. So I don't know if that's close to NAMM or not.
Yeah, I might be able to tell you right now, because I can call up my computer here, and NAMM this year will be. It's funny, I was just trying to learn a tune. Yeah, NAMM is 25, 26, 27.
Okay.
Of January. So I've been playing every year on that huge outdoor Yamaha stage with my band.
Yeah.
And I turned it down this year just because, I don't know, it's like you get up there, you plug into whatever they have, you get 4 minutes to do a line check, and then you're on, and then you get 10 minutes to get off stage. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, we always have 1,000 people watching us.
Yeah.
But I never feel like I sound that good.
Yeah. We did a thing like that at the House of Blues, like the night Anthem started. It was like January. It was before the pandemic. It was like January of 19, I think. But it was like what you're describing. You kind of have to rush in, rush out, and everything is around, and it always sounds a lot more fun and exciting until you actually
you try to do it right. I know. So
so
hey, man, well, what a pleasure. It's been fun talking to you, and I feel like we're pals.
Yeah, we are kindred spirits. So
he'll be fine. He won't be pissed.
So. Yeah, I won't be like Chris Farley talking to Paul McCartney. Remember that time you played on that album? That was
when you said the love you give is equal to, that was cool. Hey, for the last 5 years of his life, Walter Becker was playing my LSL signature Strat, And because John Harrington, who's kind of musical director and the other guitar player that does the heavy lifting, he says, Walter plays your signature Strat. It's his favorite guitar. And so they came to town, and I asked John, can I get a backstage pass? I just want to say thank you to him. And he goes, Walter and Donald always do a runner. He won't be there. And I go, well, I'll just come backstage and have some cheese and crackers and wine with you, So Carol and I go backstage, and Fagan is there.
Oh, wow.
He didn't do a runner, just Walter. So there's this big line getting ready to talk to Donald Fagan. And Carol goes, he's your hero. You got to go talk to him. And I go, nah. So she goes, come on. So I finally get in line, and I go up, and I turned into total Chris Farley. I go, yeah, I'm a big fan. And, John's a friend of mine. He always comes and sees me at the Iridium when we play in New York. And then I said, you guys played Bodhisattva tonight. That was cool. and his response was, yeah, we like to mix it up. And that's what I say to the punters when they come up to me afterwards and, hey, you guys played this song, like Chinatown tonight. And I go, yeah, we like to mix it up. So funny. I just went, dope.
Well, it happens, but it's, it's a beautiful thing when your heroes turn out to be, aces. So again,
yeah. Carol's she gets weak in the knees just twice. One was when I introduced her to Stuart Copeland the first time. She's a big Police fan.
Yeah.
And he's a real handsome guy. And now that she's gotten to know him a few times, he gives her hugs and everything. And the other, surprisingly enough, was Martin Barr from Jethro Tull.
Really? Man.
Yeah. As we've played together, like you mentioned Budapest, we did a blues festival there one time, and his band, I got him his drummer, a London guy named Darby Todd, and he comes out to LA and hangs, and we go out to dinner and everything. And
that's awesome.
And she was such a Jethro Tull fan that she goes, I used to be in the second row, and I loved you guys. I saw the Thick as a Brick, Passion Play, all those records that he's on, so it's funny. Like what?
I just watched funny that you mentioned that a YouTube thing, him talking about kind of what happened between he and Ian and how he feels about his new band and how he loves his band, and he feels so enthused and recharged for the business because it's his band, and he always feels like he will be Jethro Tull's guitar player, and Jethro Tull is, as he knew it, doesn't exist, but that's okay. He's very happy.
Yeah. He's in a good place right now. And his singer, that guy, Paul is his name, I think. And that guy sounds a lot like Ian Anderson. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, and they got a hard-hitting drummer. And then my buddy Alan Thompson, a bass player from Glasgow, he plays in the band. And it's just a really cool band. Last time I saw him here in LA, they did Aqualung, the whole record.
Wow.
Which was really cool,
Yeah, I love that, being able to hear a whole album, because that's back in the day. That's how we consume things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it was LP. There was this
I know.
predated cassettes or 8-tracks for me. It was just all
vinyl.
Yeah, with the gatefold sleeve, pouring over the lyrics and who played on what. So
I know. I still have a lot of vinyl.
Yeah, I've seen that wall before in some photos. I'm like, dude, that's pretty impressive.
So about 5 years ago, I decided, I'm going to get a really good turntable, spend a couple grand or something. And I got a really fantastic turntable, and all those records that we bought in high school, I thought these are going to be miserable. They're going to have, they're going to be ticks and pops like crazy. But the stylus just tracks so lightly that you can play them and they sound fine.
Yeah.
So that's good news.
Yeah. I went to pull out all my old Yes albums and my Pink Floyd and Genesis, and I've even got a couple old Chet Atkins things that I would like to get. I just need to, like you did, get a decent player.
Yeah. I can recommend this thing called the let me see. Look up Planar 3, Planar Plan R3. I think it was only about 1,400.
Plan R3.
Yeah, it's a really great turntable. I bought a red one, and it's old school in that it doesn't eject at the end. You have to go in, push the lever. But boy, does it sound good.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
You might dig it. Yeah, Christmas.
That's it. Put on my wish list.
Yeah, exactly. So,
All right,
all
man.
right,
I'm counting on us doing some shows next year. That would be amazing.
it's time.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Guitar Hang Podcast, interviews with noteworthy guitar players from around the world. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to stay updated on our latest episodes.